Hi Scorpio, welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your May 2026 tarot reading. Thanks to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as the way in front of us, it's a 12 card spread with each card representing a different house of the zodiac. Starting with your sign, Scorpio representing the first house, all the way through to Libra representing the 12th. And once we get through that, we'll pull an oracle card as well for some additional insight. As far as the decks being used this month, for the main tarot deck, we have the Brady Tarot, and for the oracle deck, we'll be using the Wisdom Oracle. We're actually going to start the reading off by rolling those astrology dice we have in front of us to get an idea of where your focus should be as far as that goes. Alright, we have Pluto. So Pluto is actually your chart ruler, and Pluto currently is in Aquarius, where it will be for many years, but on the 6th of May, it's actually going to start a retrograde. So for you guys, Aquarius is your 4th house of home, roots, and family. All right, 5. So 5th house energy for you guys is Pisces. That area of the zodiac's pretty quiet now. I mean, obviously, it was pretty active over the past couple of years, but currently we have the North Node wrapping up its transit through there. So don't get me wrong, it's a pretty significant transit in general, but it's getting to the end of that transit. But yeah, 5th house in general points to romance, creativity, and children. And we have Taurus. So, as opposed to what we were just saying about Pisces being pretty quiet, way different story with Taurus. So, of course, we have the Sun currently in Taurus. We'll have the new moon in Taurus on the 16th of May. On the 2nd of May, we'll have Mercury move in there. On the 18th, we'll have Mars move in there. And actually, pretty much, we're right in the last day, more or less, of Uranus being in Taurus. So, of course, when we get into May, that won't be a factor anymore. But there's definitely been plenty of energy going on there recently, at the very least, right? And for you guys, Taurus is your 7th house of partnerships, contracts, and relationships. So we'll keep all that in mind as we go through the main spread. In the 1st house, representing personality, self-awareness, and appearance, we have Guile. So this is Aquarius energy here, which we spoke about to an extent, talking about the Pluto energy, but seeing this here could just be saying that you're being very strategic this month. So, if we just look at the artwork, right, it's an Aquarius energy, so at least in the northern hemisphere, that's very wintry, right, and we see a bunch of squirrels, and if you think about that time of year, right, it's a bit of a resource-starved time of year, so if you think about these squirrels, they're all trying to get what they need for survival, and sometimes when people are in that mood, they might do things that are a little less than ethical, right? So I feel like this is saying you're being very strategic this month because you might not necessarily trust everyone around you. Very scorpionic in general, right? But you know what I mean. For the 2nd house of possession, self-worth, and finances, we have the Daughter of Horns. So yeah, this is basically the equivalent of the Page of Cups. So to see this here, it could just be saying that you might feel like you're having a bit of a fresh start when it comes to that area of life. So maybe you're getting a boost in your finances, right? But even if so, let's say if you went through a setback recently with your finances, right, it could just be saying that, okay, things might be picking up now, but there is this energy of newness to it, right? But yeah, that's primarily what I'm getting there, especially if you take the artwork into consideration, right? It gives you that feel of spring, things coming back to life. So looks like you'll be seeing some improvement there. All right, so for your 3rd house, which in general points to communication, short journeys, siblings, we have the Empress. So this is very much a Taurus type of energy. So to see this coming up as we're progressing through Taurus season seems like good timing there. Especially given that Mercury, which would be the ruler of communication, will be in Taurus for pretty much half of May. What I'm getting from this primarily could just be saying that people might come to you with praise this month. They could also come to you with good offers, and I feel like this is just saying that there's probably just going to be a flow to conversations, right? You won't feel like you have to force anything this month. There's just going to be more relaxed energy, I feel like, in general, which we're probably overdue for as a collective right now anyway, right? When it comes to communicating with each other. All right, so for your fourth house, which as we mentioned, we saw the Pluto energy there too, we have withdrawal. So this is really a Libra energy in general, the equivalent of the Four of Swords. So yeah, to see this here could just be saying that maybe you guys will be keeping to yourselves a little bit this month, right? Which would align somewhat with the guile energy, right? Like we said, if you feel like you're not necessarily trusting everyone in your immediate environment and you're being very strategic, right? This is not out of question to say that, yeah, you might be a little bit more withdrawn this month. But yeah, either way, I feel like this is saying that you might feel regenerated and revitalized through being within your home environments this month, too. All right, so for the fifth house, which we saw with the dice as well, we have accomplishment. So this is the Nine of Roots, which is the equivalent to the Nine of Pentacles. So to see this here, you'll just be saying that maybe you're having a little bit of success when it comes to your creative projects this month. So, recently, well, I was talking about how there was so much energy going through Pisces over the past couple of years, right? We had Neptune there for a very long time. We had Saturn there as well. North Node's still there, like we mentioned, but yeah, seeing this here could just be saying that especially if you think about the Saturn energy, right? Maybe you felt blocked when it came to your creativity, so you might have felt like you were stifled there for a while, and now as that energy is finally moving on and into Aries, right? You might finally feel like your creativity is back, right? But with the accomplishment aspect to it too, right? It could just be saying that it might have just really made you work hard for what you got during that stretch. So now that it's finally out of there, you're able to reap the rewards of the work that was done during that time. All right, so for the sixth house, which points to your health, work, daily routines, we have oppression. So this is an interesting one to see here because just like we were talking about Saturn leaving your fifth house, right? Currently it's in your sixth house. So maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed in that area of life now, right? Maybe your work has you feeling a little bit bogged down. Maybe you're having difficulty sticking with daily routines, right? Let's say you were always going to the gym, and now for whatever reason you might find it harder to stick to that. Could be something as simple as that, but it's a heavier energy, right? Let's not downplay that part of it. But yeah, it could just be saying that this could actually be something that's sparking you to look at your routines and see what you can lift, right? I don't know, must have gym on the brain, but see what you could leave behind potentially and find something that's a better fit for you in this time. For your seventh house energy, which we saw, like we said, plenty of Taurus energy, we have the Mother of Arrows. So in general, partnerships, contracts, relationships are represented here. And to see this is basically a Libran energy. It's the equivalent of the Queen of Swords. So to see this here, you could just be saying that, yeah, ultimately you're looking for those kinds of connections, right? If you are going to partner up with someone, if you are going to be in a relationship, if you are going to sign a contract, I feel like this is saying you ultimately want something with fairness at its root, right? You want something where you feel like you're working with an equal, right? Where everyone's getting something from the situation, right? No one's necessarily feeling like they got away with the upper hand, where everyone feels like they're getting something worthwhile from the connection. All right, so for the eighth house, which is your natural rulership house, we have the Hermit. So yeah, in general, eighth house points to death, rebirth, intimacy, investments, and to see the Hermit come up here, you'll just be saying, well, yeah, kind of like what I was saying with Guile, right? I feel like you're coming across as quite strategic this month. But to see this coming up in the eighth house, yeah, it could just be saying when it comes to your resources too, right? How you're managing those resources. So in modern days, we tend to think of finances when we say resources, but that could just be your time, your energy, right? I mean, they all work together ideally, but that could be what you're really looking at, right? Like, how do you want to invest your energy, your time, your resources, your money, and being strategic about doing so. I feel like this is pointing to doing a lot of research around those things too. All right, so for the ninth house energy, we have Temperance. So this is actually the major arcana energy for Sagittarius. And to see this here coming up in your ninth house, which basically Sagittarius is the natural ninth house ruler, points to philosophy, higher learning, foreign affairs. I feel like this is saying you're feeling pretty firm in what you believe in, right? So I feel like this is saying you won't really be shaken or, thrown off course by anyone trying to maybe push their beliefs on you, things like that. I feel like this is saying you're pretty firm and solid on where you're at right now. And I feel like this is saying that's going to be a positive for you too. So even if you were a little bit shaken around those things for a time, I feel like this is saying you're going to be very firm on them at the very least this month. All right, so for your 10th house, which points to career, social status, we have equilibrium. So this is the two of roots, equivalent to the two of pentacles. So yeah, so this could ultimately be saying, right, so if we tie these three houses together, with the second house we were saying daughter of horns, right, feels like a fresher energy, like a page energy, tends to be, and we see oppression in the sixth house, right? So it could just be saying that maybe you're finding some kind of a way to balance out, right, that okay, maybe you understand that it might be unrealistic to completely leave behind a certain routine, right? But if you're like, okay, maybe it pays the bills, right? But it doesn't necessarily, it leaves you feeling a little bit unfulfilled, right? So this could just be saying you might find that balance, whether it be, embracing this role, but also giving more time and energy to a creative project, right? Or even just finding a new place where you can, yes, still get your bills paid, right? But also feel a certain level of connection to the work you're doing, right? To the work you're putting in, you might feel like it's going to lead to your growth as well, right? Not just the growth of whatever company you might be working for. So that could be what you're striving for this month. All right, so for your 11th house, which in general points to friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes, we have the Wheel of Fortune. So this is Jupiter energy here. And yeah, so to see this here, it could just be saying that it might actually bring forward connections for you guys this month that are actually going to be beneficial to you, right? So they might just feel like they get pulled into your orbit unexpectedly, right? Or maybe they already are in your orbit, right? And they've been tried and true to where, you feel comfortable discussing things with them. And in doing so, you might actually figure out some really good ideas, maybe even unintentionally so, right? It could just be a casual conversation you have with a friend, but something they say might spark this idea off in you on how you can move forward around something. All right. And for the 12th house, which in general is spirituality, blind spots, mental health, we have the Lovers. So interesting to see this here because timeline wise, of course, we're going to be moving into Gemini season as we get toward the end of May. But beyond that, to see this in your 12th house could just be saying that, yeah, it could be a part of you now that is thinking about partnering up, right? So, like we said with the Mother of Arrows, trying to look at that, right? The five, fifth house energy is a very independent energy, but then we see an energy very much about partnership in the seventh, right? And maybe trying to strike that balance there, right? The freedom versus connection. So maybe that's something you're looking at, right? Like, okay, and maybe realizing that, okay, it doesn't have to be an either or, right? Where maybe you look at either you're single with complete freedom or you're in a connection and that just means you're tethered to the other person, right? So maybe you're even looking at your thoughts around that too and finding a balance there. All right, so bottom of the deck we have the moon, and this seems to be right on time too, given the fact that pretty much on the 1st of May, we're going to have a full moon in your sign. So could just be as simple as pointing to that, right? Saying that, hey, that full moon, given that is in your sign, is going to be a prominent one, right? It's going to maybe lay the groundwork for how the month goes for the most part. But there's also the fact that, well, in general, when I see the moon come up in a spread, I usually just pay attention to the main lunar cycles in general for that month. So obviously, like we said, given that the month kicks off with a full moon in your sign, that's already significant enough. Then there's going to be a new moon on the 16th, which is going to be in your opposite sign, right? So that could maybe bring those partnership themes to the forefront there. And then at the very end of the month, on the 31st of May, there's going to be a full moon in your second house of finances, possessions, self worth. So that could be where that daughter of horns energy is coming from, where uh, maybe you'll get some new opportunities around that time. But we'll see what the oracle card adds to the mix. So I'm just going to give this a few shuffles, and then we'll cut the deck and pull a card. Make that a little less messy, and we'll take this card. Let me get this out of the way, and we'll see what you guys got. All right, we have flexible. There's the artwork, and the number is 19. So, see what it has to say. All right, essential meanings says teachability, open mindedness, being adaptable without compromising what's most important. The oracle's message: a tree's roots are solidly planted in the ground, yet its branches can bend in a hurricane, whereas a rigid structure like a building will come crashing down. Consider how the tree remains supple and secure, and everything around it may be in shambles. This is how you need to be now, willing to learn new things, teachable, malleable, yet firmly grounded in who you are. Common sense is important, but so is an open mind. Stay curious, stay open, stay aware. At this time, others will be more flexible with you too. So yeah, that was an interesting message here because it made me think of two of the cards in the spread. One being the Temperance card with the artwork we see there, kind of aligning with the message, and also the Equilibrium one in the 10th house to a certain extent too. Even withdrawal, really, right? So hopefully that resonated with you. The relationship message says in every relationship, it's important to be open to new experiences and learning new things. Letting go of rigidity is what's required right now. You don't always have to be right all the time, do you? It's okay to come to a happy compromise. You can still get your needs met. It's a beautiful day when you meet halfway. The appearance of this card in a reading could also signal that you may have met someone new who may not be your type, but it will turn out to be so special that you can easily release your old ideas about what sort of partner is right for you. Be flexible. You'll be happy you made that choice. So yeah, that was another interesting message there because I could see how that could tie in with that seven of, mother of arrows energy that we see in the 7th house. So definitely seems to align with that in an interesting way too. And then for your prosperity message, we have even when you have a clear vision of how you're going to manifest something, what it will look like, who will share in it, and what will then be available to you, you still need to relax and open up to other possibilities. Spirit may have much better plans for you. It could be a job you hadn't thought of, a new source of money, or some other opportunity that eluded your imagination. Be flexible and remind yourself, this or something better manifests for me now. Then be willing to bend a little. Enjoy the miraculous results. So yeah, pretty solid message here too, and that just reading that made me think of the fact that before we know it, we'll actually have Jupiter moving into your 10th house of career and social status a little later in the year. Currently it's wrapping up its transit through Cancer, but could just be saying that even if you feel like you're spinning your wheels for a little bit longer, if you're still putting the work in, when that Jupiter transit moves on to your 10th house, you might see things finally start to pay off around that time. So that would be, let's say, July. Around July is when it's going to move in there. But we'll wrap up there. Hopefully that resonated with you guys, and I'll talk to you all soon. All right, bye.